another Ziti TV, and I forgot to make a slide that tells you what we're going to be doing here today. That's kind of a bummer. Let's see. So, making sure I'm streaming on the right stop. I am a little bit disjointed today on a Friday. I didn't get my normal prep work done, but we're going to give it a go. Today on ZDTV, we're going to be taking a look at enrollment. And so the reason why we'll be doing that is because out on ZDTV, out on Discourse, we had a user who was trying to enroll an identity, and they said that they didn't realize they're actually trying to use OpenZD for application embedded zero trust. Very cool. And they said they didn't realize that the SDKs all have enrollment examples. And so I thought it would be a fun thing to go back, talk a little bit about what enrollment is, what strong identities are, and show people how to enroll an identity using, we're going to use Go, we're going to use C Sharp, and we're going to use C if my C skills are up to the task. And one never does know how those skills will be. I do see that a special guest star has joined us. Ken, welcome
Howdy.
back. It's been a minute.
Yeah, how's it going?
It's going all right. End of year, we haven't particularly had a ZDTV topic lately, so here we are back again. I didn't know if you were going to be here. You weren't here until right up at the last moment, which is cool, but welcome. We're going to be talking about enrollment today. I think you heard a little
Yep,
bit of the preamble there.
heard
So
that.
let's just get right into it. Anything do you want to mention about enrollment before we get into it?
No, I was gonna see what you wanted to focus on. It's kind of it's easy for that topic to sprawl a little bit. So but I see what you're saying about the confusion, the point of confusion.
All right. Well, then let's just get right on into it. I'm going to share my screen, and we will hope that Chrome does a proper job of sharing my screen because one never does know. I think we're going to do this screen here. This should be in the right aspect. And here we are. I know it's teeny tiny, so we're going to make it comically large because that way when you're looking at this on your phone or wherever, you can actually see it. But see, this is our discourse. If you haven't been, I can't make this any bigger. OpenZD.discourse.group. Oh, you know what I can do? Boom, I can get that. I can come over to, not captions, I can come over to chat. And, oh, happy Friday, ZD team. Excited for this topic. Excited. Well, hello, Giga Chad. Cool. Dig the name. Dig the name. Hi back. And let's see, how do I pop up something on the screen here, Ken? I know I can do it somehow. I guess I'll just do it like this. Boom. Here's our discourse group, and I'll show it. So you can go out there. This is where you can find me and Ken. We're out answering questions all the time. So if you are interested in asking questions about how OpenZD works, how to get something to work, etc., come out there, holler at us. We usually get back to you pretty timely. All right, so out here we saw this question, SDK and enrollment. And so the person says, hey, I'm looking a little bit into the SDK and enrollment's not really clear. The examples I've seen, it seems that we should enroll the JWT token externally to the application, which you can do. However, you don't have to do that. And my question is, can we enroll from the application itself? And it's really interesting that we do a bad job, apparently, of telling people, yes, you absolutely can do this. In fact, if you were to look at one of the tunnelers, like my Windows one here, the Windows tunneler is based on the C SDK. It's got a service that runs inside of Windows, and that service is based on the C SDK and runs ZDH Tunnel. ZDH Tunnel is an SDK application, and ZDH Tunnel does enroll your JWTs, your JOTs, your authentication tokens using a function. And so, like I said, I'm going to save that one to the end because C is not my favorite playground, and C Lion, Windows, sometimes they don't play together. So we'll see how it goes if we get that far. But the SDK is definitely used to enroll your identities. And then we do other things with them because the tunnelers that we put out are special built, purpose-built applications for that particular OS. There's one for Mac, there's one for Android, Linux, Windows. Yeah, those are the major ones. All right. So then I replied back and said, hey, geez, of course you can do that. Oh, this ghost identity out there doing some cool things with ZD and C# land said, go try the C# one, which thanks for that shout out. And then I followed up and said, you've inspired me. I'm going to walk through enrollment on Ziti TV. And here we are. So that's a little bit about why we're here. If you haven't been to our docs page, you can go on out to our docs page and type the word enrollment, and you'll see a whole bunch of interesting enrollment information. We click on the first one. You can see it brings us to the enrollment of routers, the enrollment of clients, these sorts of things. But really what I was looking for, if I can recall exactly where it was, which enrollment was I looking for? I was looking for, it's under identities. There it is, down here, enrolling an identity. And so this is what we'll be taking a look at. I'm also going to explore all over the place when it comes to enrollment. We have a lot of options to enroll you. And we also had another user out on Discourse, and this is another reason why it sparked me to do this particular auto enrollment, third-party auto enrollment. We also had this user out here trying to do third-party CA auto enrollment. Very cool stuff. So if we get far enough along, we'll talk about how all these options. And if anybody out there is watching live and wants to, or even watching the replay and wants to ask questions, please do ask questions. This is our time to explain what enrollment means. All right, Ken, did I forget anything? How's that set up?
Well, you got me thinking about what's the simplest way to explain what we mean by enrollment. Can I take a stab at that?
Oh, I'm excited.
So it can mean a bunch of different things just because ZD is very flexible. But ultimately the problem that we're talking about with enrollment is onboarding. We need strong identities, which uses cryptography to do a little handshake and make sure that who is who. And we're not using passwords for as a best practice here. But in order to get that strong identity, you need something. And enrolling is just the procedure by which one entity can obtain a verifiable, cryptographically strong identity with some kind of short-term exploding token, something that they have, like a single trust factor. An enrollment token, it might be a single trust factor, like an exploding token that they exchange with ZD for a longer-lived cryptographic token.
Love it.
Or
Yeah.
document.
So I'm gonna jump in for a few things. First, you said we don't use passwords as a best practice. That's absolutely true. When you enroll your identity, you're going to be getting a JWT. If you haven't seen what a JWT is, go out and learn about what JWTs are. This is the JWT debugger. Once you have a JWT, you'll come here all the time and paste your JWT in, which you should be careful about because JWTs are oftentimes secrets. Do not paste them where you shouldn't be. But JWT.io, well-known site, and also you'll see me paste them into here later if we get there, because it just radically simplifies things. But if you haven't heard of a JWT, go check out what a JWT is. So also bootstrapping trust. I'm going to pimp the blog here that Andrew wrote so long ago. A great 5-part series on what it means to bootstrap trust. So enrollment, Ken said, is all about bootstrapping trust. It really is if you were going to boil it into a soundbite, enrollment is bootstrapping that trust. We talk about zero trust all the time here on OpenZD. We are, after all, a zero trust overlay network, mesh overlay network. And so we do need to bootstrap trust, and bootstrapping that trust is quite difficult. Now, I'm actually going to take a moment and explain this. This is where I'm going to go deep here, Ken. We're going to go right to part 5. Where's part 5? Because part 5 has on it, this diagram. That is not the right link. How entertaining. Let's click on the image instead and open image in a new tab. I don't know why the link is wrong, but whatever. We'll maybe fix that later.
Which page was that on?
Maybe we won't. I'm not going back to it right now. So this is the 9-step process of bootstrapping trust, and it seems complicated, and it kind of is complicated. But if we go through it real slow, and talk about it together, then I think you'll understand that it's not quite as scary. Oh, that's not the right. Oh, that's a gist. What's that one, Ken? Offline inspector. Okay.
You're talking about
JWTIO.
using, you got to be careful using JWT-IO because it
JWTIO doesn't actually send your credentials anywhere. It's
yeah,
modestly safe, but
yeah.
yeah. But you're right. An offline one is also interesting. So let me put this one in here. Yet another link because this is the one that we're going to now. Blog 5 or part 5, I should say. And it has this image on it. So let's walk through what happens when you enroll. The first thing is you have an administrator, and that administrator says, I'd like you to go and we're going to go through one-time token or JWT based enrollment. The administrator says, I'd like to make an identity for Ken. And so the admin logs into OpenZD's controller either through the ZAC or the ZD's. You know what? Let's do this together. We'll do all 9 steps together here. I just happen to have, nope, that's a console, but it's the wrong console window because I want to stop this one.
So as the administrator, you're going to give me a ticket that I can exchange for something better.
Exactly. One time, as you referred to it, exploding token. So here I am. This is running Docker compose. It's running my ZD YAML file. It's giving it a project name. I'm working on EdgeX Foundry, so it's got EdgeX, and it turns on my quick start. So first thing I'm going to do, this is how I personally make a whole entire ZD network for me to test with. I down it like I just did, and then I bring it back up again. This uses Ken's new all-in-one quick start Docker file. We can take a look at that if we want. But what it will do is it will create a controller, it'll create a router all locally, start it all up, give you a whole PKI, and just make it all work super fast, super easy, like it's already running. That's how fast it takes. All right. So now once that's running, let's go ahead and we'll skip this up to the top and we'll make this bigger, and we'll log in to localhost 1280 because that's where it's going to be. And it's going to use it, username and password of admin by default. The Y flag will just say accept it and log me in. All right, so now Clint, the administrator, wants to give Ken access to this ZD environment. Now, of course, it's running locally, so Ken won't be able to. I'm going to be Ken too. So I do a ZD edge, create identity Ken, and I give an output file of, in fact, this case, let's do mount c temp ZD TV, yeah, ken.jwt. All right, let's give it Ken1. We'll call him Ken1 because I'm going to make a bunch. All right, so now I've created
number.
Ken serial number, yeah. So now I've created an identity, and that is step 1 of our image right here. We have created an identity. Step 2 is to retrieve the JWT. The ZD CLI does this for you. Now, if I do a I can't curl. Curl's hard because I need to be able to authenticate. So I'm going to do a ZD edge list identities, and I'm going to give it -J for JSON. And you'll see it'll spit back at me some JSON. And this is emulating retrieving the JWT. If we look through here, you'll see a JWT. You can spot them because they're always base64 encoded. They're always relatively long, and they always have 3 periods in them. So if we bring this back over to the JWT-IO, JWT-IO, and we slap this inside, the whole thing inside of here, and we make it bigger so it's comically large, you'll see that it's for an issuer of OpenZD :1280 because that's how I set it up, and it has that's the URL that it has. And it is a signed document. That's what I was looking for. A signed document. Even though it says it's an invalid signature, this is a signed document. And so I've pulled that JWT down, and we'll get into what that signed document means here. If I can find the diagram, I'm going to pull this out like this. So I've retrieved the JWT. Now, when you run the ZD CLI command itself, create identity, it does 2 things. It creates the identity and it gets the JWT for you. If you were to use the ZD admin console, you'd have to download that JWT. And so now, once I have that JWT, your job as the administrator is to somehow get this thing to Ken safely and securely. Everybody's definition of safely and securely is different. Personally, nowadays, I'd probably do a Xerox share public, and I would give it, let's see, backend mode of, is it web? Web. And I would give it a dot like this. And so then I would say, hey, Ken, can you go out to here? And can you get, well, I maybe would put it somewhere else.
Maybe don't share everything.
Oh, I shared the wrong folder. Where am I? Oh, that's because I'm not in this folder. That's why it took so long. I would share it with Xerox, and I would say, hey,
There you go.
Ken, I've given you a bespoke URL. Can you go get and this is the way I'm going to choose to send it to Ken. I'll use Xerox. I'll share it he'll get it, and then I'll take the share and put it away, and it's gone forever, safely and securely transferred. A lot of times you can just email it. Like, I'm not going to lie. People are going to use that token pretty quickly, and so you'll email the token. That's fine for lots of people. It all depends on your level of security, where you are, how secure you want to be, right? And so once Ken gets his token, Ken's going to then go through, where's my URL? Ken's going to then, so we've delivered the JWT to the enrolling device. The next thing that's going to happen is the enrolling device is going to actually try to enroll that token. And so when it does the enrollment of the token, it's going to do a couple of things. The first thing it's going to do, regardless of what SDK it is it will retrieve a bundle of certificates from the controller that is specified within the JWT. So remember before, there's this issuer. This issuer is really important because it's inside of the JWT, and because the document is a signed document, meaning it's cryptographically verifiable, what we can do is we can go in, get the issuer's URL, go to that URL that the JWT says it's from, who the issuer is, pull down a well-known CA bundle, which you can find. I don't remember the RFC, but it's like a well-known ESTCA certs. You can go to this URL on any controller, and assuming that it's safe, you can pull down a PKCS7 file, which is a bundle of certificates. That bundle of certificates you can then un-PKCS7 and put to disk and have your bundle locally. And so I think on, not this one, on this and on the auto enrollment, PKCS, no, I did not. I oftentimes will curl down the bundle for my own use when I want to test something against my own controller, like enrollment. And so you'll see that the SDK will pull down the controller's certificate bundle, and it will then use that bundle and verify that the JWT that you were delivered was signed by the certificate from that particular server. In fact, I take it back. It's not the bundle. It's just the server's certificate. I forgot about that. It even says controller's server certificate right there. The bundle is actually used a little bit later. So it goes out and it retrieves the certificate from the server, not the bundle yet. So that would be, in my case, not this, not this, not this. That would be this certificate right here, whatever this one was, that comes from my local quick start that I just ran. Okay, so once the certificate is pulled and once the JWT is verified that it was signed by that particular certificate, the SDK will go on forward. And that step right there is huge, right? That step is really important because you were delivered a cryptographically valid, verifiable document. You were able to look at the document, ask that document where it's from, and go and retrieve a certificate from that location and prove that the document was signed by that certificate. So that's some pretty good verification of trust right there. So it verifies the JWT signature like we talked about. And then once we've done this, we're good. We are golden. We can trust this URL. We can trust this JWT, and we can start the rest of the process off. I should have gotten a drink here. I'm coughing a lot. So next is the SDK will pull down that trust store that I talked about, the well-known bundle. It will use that well-known bundle when it creates the strong identity. It'll generate a CSR, certificate signing request. It'll send that CSR up to the controller, and the controller will respond back with a certificate that says, I've signed your CSR, your certificate request. Here's your certificate. You have your private key. Put it someplace safe. Here's your certificate. Put it someplace safe. And then here's your CA bundle. Put it someplace safe. And so that is everything that happens when a OTT enrollment happens. And so if I were to Ziti edge enroll ken1.jwt, it says it wrote the JWT file out. It's a JSON file. If we then do a JQ on ken.json, you'll see inside of there is a Ziti API. This is the location that the controller is from. It just so happens it's the same URL because that is what you would expect. It gives you a key. Here's your key. Your client created this key. It did not come from the controller. You made this before you sent up your CSR. You have to sign your CSR when as part of the process of sending it to the controller. So you had to generate a key first, and this is the key that you used. Here's the certificate that came back from the controller indicating, this is the certificate I want you to present back to the OpenZT overlay. And here's your CA bundle. This is the whole PKCS7 thing that we talked about. And bam, you have a strong identity. This JSON file is a secret, and you should treat it as a secret. Every tunneler does things a little differently. My tunneler is in Windows, so we put the secrets in Windows into the system profile, only available by administrators.
Are they still the same format of JSON file?
They're identical, yeah.
Okay. So it's a standard JSON format that all the different Ziti software pieces and parts use this JSON format to store an identity.
Yeah, in fact, we can go take a look at the one that's running here on my local machine, and you can see the crazy directory that it goes into. And then, because I want to show one more fun, interesting thing, if we look at, you almost got me, Ken. You almost made me throw my key up on the screen. No, we're not going to do that. So if we look at here, you'll see a bunch of JSON files, a bunch of .baks that I've backed up. Personally, I'm a developer on this stuff, so I go in and I back them up. But what I want to look at actually in here is my Mattermost JSON. And so if we look at the Mattermost JSON, you're going to see this actually also, your identity file is able to, it looks the same, Ziti API, key cert, CA, all the same stuff. But as you can see here, it's able to reference files on your file system. So if you were to deliver your own certificate from your own PKI and go down that third-party CA path that we talked about prior, this is what your file would look like. This is exactly the same. The only difference is instead of having a string crammed into it, hey, 1 second, Ken, I can hear you typing there. Instead of having a string crammed into the file, it's a file reference somewhere on your file system. And so I'm just showing you this because even more options when it comes to enrollment. Okay, so I think we've covered enrollment pretty well from an OTT perspective, Ken, right? Would you say we have?
Yeah, and that's definitely the most common way, probably the first way that people use enrollment with Ziti.
It is definitely the easiest thing to do. Like you can see right out of the gate, I was able to, in fact, let's go back again. Let's revisit. We will down our entire environment. And also now that identity, that Ken1 identity is no good because I deleted the whole entire thing. And we'll turn it back up again. And there we go. Almost done. And it's done. Okay. The regular quick start, by the way, gets into a little bit more PKI stuff. It takes just a scooch longer. All right. Now I have to log in again. So I go my login. I got to make my Ken1 identity again. So I'll make that Ken1 identity, and I have to enroll that identity again. Enroll Ken. Am I in the right location? I'm not. So that'll fail, and then I'll CD. Okay, mount C Ziti TV Ziti TV, where is it? Temp, Ziti TV. And then, yeah, Ken 1, here it is. So now I can enroll my Ken 1 identity, get a new strong identity. And so now if you were to have looked, if you can remember, I certainly can't. Oh, we did JQ before, jq.ken. This is all different now. The only thing that's the same is the URL. I was able to create an entire environment, make a whole brand new identity, and enroll it all that quickly. All right. Not bad. Within 30 minutes, we got through all of OTT enrollment. Let's take a look. I'm going to go, before I go into third-party CAs, I'm going to, Spiffy Inspire integration. Well, we have just the thing for that. Let me put this on the page here. We do have a comment about Spiffy Inspire integration. Cool project. If you don't know what Spiffy or Spire are, Spiffy is a set of specifications. Spire is a reference implementation of those specifications, and basically makes it really easy to add TLS and mutual TLS into your applications. Definitely check them out. Cool stuff.
Yeah, good timing, because we were just about to start talking about third-party CAs, where the OTT one-time enrollment token enrollment method that you were just talking about uses the CA that comes with Ziti, but you can also bring your own CA. And that's what we mean by external CAs, but they're really two different ways of using an external CA.
Yeah, and now if you haven't been to my personal GitHub repository, I don't know what you're doing with your life, but you should check out this QCon 2023. And I'm going to put it into here for GigaChad because GigaChad will appreciate this. This whole thing is a guide to using Ziti with Spire. And so if you haven't seen this, it's pretty fun. Have a look. You know, you can go out there and you can see this whole entire thing. And if you're interested in that presentation, I don't know if it's on our YouTube channel. Maybe I should re-record it. If it's not, I should re-record the whole presentation. I gave a whole presentation at QCon 2023, integrating Spiffy, Inspire, and OpenZiti. Good times. All right. But that would be integrating with a third-party CA. Absolutely. I don't want to get into that just yet. What I'd like to do first is I want to go back and replay the question, not the question, the answer that Mark, no, Ghost Rider, that was Ghost, not Rider, Ghost Identity said you should try this example. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to make a brand new, I'm going to close this project. I'm off screen, I know I am. Close the solution and close this. I'm going to bring up Visual Studio. Now, if you know how to change this font size to make it comically large, let me know, because I do not. The size in here will be comically large, but let's make a brand new project, and we're going to make a console app, and we're going to call it Ziti TV. Oh, let's put it in C:temp Ziti TV C. What did I call this? Let's see. Did I call it C# or did I call it .NET? Never can tell. Let's see. C# right there. Let's put it right here. We'll make a brand new Ziti TV enrollment console application. All right. Here's our comically large font console application. And so what we're going to do in order to enroll an identity with the C# or the .NET SDK, first thing we have to do is we have to go out here and we have to manage our NuGet packages. Again, I'm sorry that this is not comically large, but we're going to click Browse, and we're going to type OpenZiti up here. You'll get 4 results. You don't want these bottom 2. Those are older. You want these top 2, but really you don't want the native app. You want the standard, the OpenZiti.NET one. Go ahead and click Download or Install. And so now we've gotten our dependency, our SDK dependency in there, and we want to enroll our identity. So the first thing we do is we type OpenZiti, and we type API, and we want to, oh, there's an enroll identity function. How convenient. It takes a set of bytes. All right, so let's say my JWT bytes. Yeah. How about my bytes? Yeah. All right, cool. And so now we want to make a my bytes variable, and we want to read a file. File.read all bytes. Also has a very convenient read all bytes function. That's cool. And we'll read it from, let's do C:temp Ziti. Is it on my, hey, it is. All right. C#, and we'll do let's do C#.jwt. Okay. So that fits on screen. And so this is saying, read the JWT file from here, and then pass that into the enrollment function. And then does the enroll identity actually return anything? Okay, it returns a string. Maybe it should do something different, but we'll say, and let's do strong identity. Strong identity equals OpenZDOPI enroll identity. Yeah, now let's just write it to disk or to the screen because that's a good idea. And there's our whole program. Now, I didn't show you how to automate creating the identity, but that wasn't particularly what the question was about. So let's go back to over here, and we'll change to here in C#. And now this time we'll do a ZD edge create identity. And what do we call this thing? C#. Send the output to C#.jwt. And now I have C#.jwt. Cool. So now if this works, this should be as simple as that. We should be able to enroll this thing. And when the black window pops up, I'll bring it over here. All right. And you see it works. You see hello world. You see the OpenZD 1280. You see the cert, the key, the CA. And you have just enrolled an identity using the C# SDK from literally nothing to demo time in like, I don't know, 3 minutes, something like that. All right. What's up with the video title? Oh, no. All right. We're going to have to edit the video title. Can I edit it live? I can. Let's see. This is Ziti TV. Thanks for that. Jan, why is it? Because the last time I streamed without planning ahead of time, apparently it was from April of like whatever
6 now.
that was. Enrollment with SDKs. How about that? We'll call it that.
It should be
I don't know if
fixed
it'll
now.
change it. Oh, you've already done it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks, Ken. You could have let me know before I did that. I don't know if I overwrote what you did or not. Cool.
We may have just been talking over each other.
All right. My apologies. So now, thanks for that. We'll definitely make sure the title is correct. Restream should ask me before I go ahead and do that. Anyway, let's see, where was I? Oh yeah, I just did C#. So now I was going to do Golang. And so let's go ahead and try to do the same thing with Go. And these are the appetizers. Here's my Go. Okay. So I've already created a basic skeleton of a Go program out here. I don't know how to make it show something. All right, there we are. Yep. So that does output some things. Great. So now what we need to do is we need to go out into GitHub land and import github.com OpenZD SDK Golang. Sync dependencies. Now, if we go over to the SDK Golang and we go to example, in here, I don't believe we're going to find an exact example. All right. I did, however, find that in our examples, there is one inside of, not the appetizer, where was the, oh, I'm going to get rid of this now because that's just cluttering my screen. Where is, not this one, this one, go away. And this is the appetizer. I need to go to the SDK Golang. Recent projects, SDK Golang. Here it is. Enroll.go. I found it inside of zping. There is a good enroll function for you to look at. It's actually a bit more thorough than the example I showed you prior. It's reading a bunch of commands and doing a whole bunch of things and, doing a lot of nice stuff for you. But this is basically what it's going to look like. You get to specify your key algorithm. You get to specify some information like the path, the cert path, all that sort of stuff. It looks JWT path, checks to see if it exists, checks to see if you've CA over, all kinds of extra stuff that we're not going to do. We're just going to go down and call enroll.enroll. And so let's go ahead.
Focus on enrollment.
And call. That's right. And so let's call enroll.enroll. And if I, is this the GitHub SDK? Yeah, that's the right one. And then flags. And then we'll look at what the enroll function requires. It requires enrollment flags. So we'll make a new flags and then see how good GoLand is. Will it just create this for me? Create variable flags. Nah, that's no good. That's not how I do it. It's colon equals this, and then I'd say fill all fields in like this, and then come down here. All right, I don't care about verbose. I don't care about username, password, additional CAs, identity name, key algorithm, key file, cert file, JWT string. That's really what I care about, JWT token. I should have run this particular program prior because I am actually not certain what it's going to want us to pass to it. So here we have a cert file, key path, token. Okay, so it wants the token, and is the token, it's an enrollment claims. Okay. This is a bit more intricate than the C# one, which just lets you take a byte stream and shove it at it. But it's still not going to be very difficult. We're going to just have to come in here and work through it. And so I need to make a token, and that token is an enrollment claims. And so let's say token, I don't know what JWT token is. Does it give me any kind of, no hint, no doc, okay. Let's see, token, I wanted to let it make it for me. Again, I should know better. Okay. Register claims, controllers, signature cert. I really don't want any of this. There must be a better function. Let's look to see if there's a better function.
Looking for something that's more of a direct path to an OTT enrollment.
Yeah, a bit like something like this. So here's parse token, and it takes a token string, and it returns you a claims, it returns you a token and an error. So let's see if parse token is used over in this example, and it is. See, that's much better. This is what I'm going to do. And then IOUtil is now just, I think, IO OS. It's OS read file. OS.read file. Yeah. And now here's my JWT path. JWT path equals, do see, where did I put this stuff? Do I still have my Explorer window? I do. Go. I want this to be here. All right, GTV, and then we'll say go.jwt. So there's my path. It'll read that. It'll get the token string. It will parse and enroll it. All right, cool. Come back over to here. See where our token is used. This is actually setting all kinds of things like, I don't know if we need it. Let's find out. That's how I develop. I find out if I need things by running it. And then config, it's going to print, is it going to print to the screen, or is it going to write it to a file? It's just going to write it to a file. I just want to print it. Format.print line conf is conf a bunch of bytes. Will it print that out? Config is, let's see, does it have a string? No string. Is it a pointer? It is a pointer. Well, that's going to be a lot of, I'm going to put a breakpoint on it because that's not going to print anything useful. Let's see, cert path key. Let's see what happens if I just comment these out. Will that just work well enough on its own? And then I don't care about errors. Just let it blow up. What did I miss? Oh, that's, why is go some entry? What are you talking about? Just debug already. Unknown escape. Yep, sure enough. Try one more time. Oh, can't forget about that. Yep, don't care. Try one more time. Here, oh man, we got a panic. Let's see, what does it want? Listening at 127. No, that's just that. Click here. Client URL tag token issuer. Oh, we gotta make a JWT first, since I didn't care about errors and I just skipped some stuff. You know, let's go back to Go, and we will create a Go identity. All right, now let's see if it'll work. Will it chooch? I'm in the wrong place. This is SDK Golang. I don't want that one. I want this one. Yes, that's the one. Let's see, do we have an issuer this time? Yeah, we do. All right. Still a panic. All right, we're going to get there. Invalid key algorithm. Seems like we need the key algorithm. Let's go back and slap in RSA. Key algo. Oh, nice. It does print. And so here's our identity. You can see it's a bunch of base64. Has the same sort of URL that you would expect. Here's the URL. Here is the private key, public key, etc. But there you are. There is a SDK invocation of enrolling an identity using Go. I'm not going to make the paint dry. I feel like that was a little bit of paint drying on that one, Ken. So we have SDKs. All of the SDKs have an enrollment function, including the CSDK. I'm not going to show that one. If anybody's bummed out, let me know. Put up another example, I guess. And so lastly, we'll talk about third-party CAs, because those are interesting. We talked a little bit about it with Spire, and we talked a little bit about it with the discourse post. I don't remember if I have my set of commands handy. Let me go see if I do. I oftentimes leave them in my temp folder, and see if I have a temp file. Star.txt. Docusaurus, 4 routers, Ajax, Cloud, no Ziti. Oh, maybe put it under discourse. Support discourse. 1999. No, there we go. Okay, cool. So let me open transcript here. So this is just a bunch of stuff that I did when I was trying to enable my own particular CA. You can go out onto Discourse and look at this person's Discourse post, though, because they did a really nice job of talking about all of their steps that they did. So you can go out and follow all these steps. I created a third-party certificate. I made it using the Ziti CLI. The Ziti CLI will also author certificate authorities if you ask it to. So you can create your own CA. You can then make sure that the thing exists. You can list your CAs. When you list your CAs, in fact, let's go ahead and just do this real quick. I'm going to have to set up Ziti PKI. Let's see, so this is why I wanted my cheat sheet, because I was doing this sort of stuff. Open Ziti 12, it's not 11, it's 1280. Ziti PKI, oh, weird. It's running in Docker, so I can't even do it. Let's actually, we'll slap into Docker to do this. That's what we'll do. Docker exec IT open Ziti bash clear. Interesting, not a command. All right. Ziti PKI should be here, and if it's not, then we'll source home, Ziti, no home. Oh, it's the quick start. Persistent, maybe? Persistent. Is there, no, there's no M file created in the quick starts, Ken?
No.
Ah, well then, I'm going to have to just make my PKI. Ziti PKI equals persistent PKI. Yes, that's where I want my PKI to be. So now I can CD to there and PWD. Perfect. I can say I'm going to make one CA called my CA. I can log in. Oh, that's fun because it's empty. It just works. I love it. Now I can create a CA, give it my PKI root, tell it the name, and tell it the CA name. And so what this will do is it'll create a new CA in my PKI called whatever CA name is. Echo CA name.
I'll play narrator for a second and just review the concept here is that ZD comes with a CA, which is in PKI jargon, that's an issuer. It's a certificate issuer. It's an authority that creates identity documents. And so it comes with one of those. We call it the Edge Signer CA or the Edge Enrollment CA. And that's the one that comes with ZD. And what you're doing right now is you're creating a new authority,
so
which is great. Huh?
The quick start creates it. It doesn't come with it, right? So when you install ZD, when you run the quick start will create that CA for you as part of the quick start steps.
So for ZD to run, for the ZD controller to run, it needs a default issuer, a default Edge Signer CA or Edge Enrollment CA. And it's true that however you're deploying ZD would normally create that first one, that default CA for you. But you can use this technique to create that first one or subsequent additional authorities. And that's useful for a lot of different real world scenarios. Like if you wanted to manufacture 1 million IoT devices and give them identities from the CA at the factory, as soon as they're born, they have an identity on board. Then the process that we're going through right now, which we call external CA or third-party CA, is just the process of creating a trust relationship between the external CA at the factory and ZD, so that when those identities first get presented to ZD, it recognizes them.
Yeah, and you can read all about third-party CAs on the doc page. A whole bunch of stuff involved in here. And we're going to cover this next step called verification, because in order to use a certificate authority like I've created here, you need to prove that you actually own that certificate. And so what you will have to do, if you go out and you run this command, you'll see that this produces a value. And what this value is the result of creating the CA inside of ZD. And so I do that because, let me go ahead and set this value to this now, because then you need to go ahead and list your CAs, and I'm going to just do this bit. You need to list your CAs, and you need to get your verification token. And so to prove that you own this certificate authority, you need to send a certificate that you created with the specific common name, the one that ZD asks you to create. And so here's a unique identity with a unique token. It says, go and make a certificate that's got this common name, and then come back and tell me. And so that's what this is doing. And so if I go ahead and I just run my little command, it'll just assign it into a variable. In fact, I can then echo that variable, and you'll see it's the same variable. And so that's just done because then I can go through and I can use the ZD CLI again, using my PKI, using my CA name, and then the identity name I want to verify, and I'll just spit it out to the same file name. And so this will create a certificate with that CA name. If I do an open SSL, not in here, bummer. If I were to do an open SSL command and X509 it, you would see that the common name of this particular certificate is the verification token that we told you to verify it with. You can then run Ziti Edge verify CA to provide the certificate. In fact, let's echo this command, and you'll see cert is empty. Did I not set the, oh, I didn't set the verification secrets, and that's why. If I echo that command, you'll see here's what we're going to run: Ziti Edge verify CA. What's the CA? Where the cert is, and then got a double concatenation going on in there. Hopefully it'll still work. Let's export. I wondered about that when I typed that. Go back and fix the cert and fix the key. Oops, where's the key? Right there, right there. And now I can go back to my echo. Much better. So now I can actually run that command. Once I've run that command, I can then do a Ziti Edge list CAs. And now you'll see my auto CA has been V for verified. Without the V, it means your CA is not verified. So if I go back to the create CA command and I create CA2, CA2, oh boy, we're just going all kinds of junk here. CA2, Ziti Edge create CA. What did I screw up there, Ken? Echo Ziti Edge create CA my CA2. What do I need? I need a cert file, huh? Bob. Could not open Bob. What did I screw? Am I screwing something up here? Ziti Edge create CA. Oh, Ziti Edge. That's why. Ziti PKI create CA. This is what I wanted. CA file 2 and 2. There we go. Okay, cool. And so then I can do the same command from before where I did the Ziti Edge create CA. Where is it? Ziti Edge create CA. Right up here. Now I can do this. That's PKI. Why am I copying the wrong thing? Ziti Edge create CA. That's the one I wanted. And 2. And then 2. Why is it? Okay, and then 2. There we go. Now if I do a Ziti Edge list CAs, you'll see this CA is not verified because I just created it. And now when a identity tries to authenticate to the controller using a certificate signed by this CA after the bug is fixed, because if you go out to the discourse post, you'll see that there's a bug, and I fixed it. So after that bug gets merged, which should happen anytime soon, then you'll actually have an identity created. So once your identity authenticates, list identities. Once your identity authenticates, an identity will get created for you automatically. And this is what Ken was saying from an IoT use case. You got 10,000, 100,000, million, whatever, identities and devices. You give them certificates, and when they show up, bam, identity gets created for you. All right, Ken, we covered a lot of ground. What do you think? Anything else?
A quick contrast between that case that you just described, using the IoT example, and using something like Spire. So whereas when you create a new authority that can issue certificates, yes, those become new Ziti identities. But with Spire, it's actually a different technique that you could call mapping, where you have an identity created in Ziti, same as before. You create it with the properties, the name that you want it to have, and the attributes you want it to have, like the roles that you want it to have. And it just sits there, and it's not actually enrolled. But then when you create the trust relationship to the Spire CA, you tell it that that Ziti should trust those certificates to be mapped to certain identities. It's according to like a pattern. It's like a pattern match, and we call that external ID. So 2 different types of trust relationships. Clint's new CA that he just created, we're giving that one permission to actually create Ziti identities, but with Spire, we're giving it permission to map to an existing identity.
Yeah, two different
Yep.
concepts entirely, though, right? So what Ken's talking about now is external JWT signers and external IDs, and not auto CA. Two different things. You can also create auth policies. So Ziti edge list.
It wasn't
auth
specifically external JWT
policies.
signers, Clint. It was external X509 signers.
Sure, and yeah, and tied to auth policies itself, right? So the default auth policy will not work in that way. You would need to make a new auth policy that maps the field or the claim in the way that Ken's talking, to allow you to do that sort of thing. But you can do that too, which is really cool, right? I have not done that for a long time. Generally speaking, nowadays, well, in my EdgeX work, the stuff that I was doing, you might have mentioned, EdgeX Foundry actually has a token provider. They're using Vault right now that issues JWTs. Those JWTs are then used for authentication. So I'm doing the exact same thing that you've mentioned. I can probably show the most basic. I don't have the project open. But basically, the JWT comes with a set of claims inside of it, just like an X509 certificate has a set of claims. I use the word fields, right? Claims is just something that the identity says that it claims to be, and it's up to you to verify it. That's why it's called a claim, right? So there's fields inside of your JWT, inside of your certificate, and one of those fields in a certificate might be the common name, like Ken was saying, could be the subject, or there's a bunch of them. I'm not a pro at all of the fields. I know there's a bunch. Same is true for the JWT. Yeah, and you can map in OpenZiti with a controller. You can map particular claims to particular identities using that external ID and using auth policies, and that'll allow you to do some other interesting things too, which is not particularly enrollment, if you would, but is more authorization. And also, at the end of the day, you're enrolling an identity so that you can authenticate and authorize yourself.
Another way of categorizing those two concepts, those two different things, like you said, one is enrollment and one is something else, would be in terms of short-term versus long-term. Because while there's nothing about enrollment that says you must use long-lived certificates, that's just impractical use. That's how we end up doing it most of the time. Whereas Spire is designed around this idea of short-lived certificates for a workload, or like a short-lived identity. But by mapping that to a long-lived authorization, then Ziti doesn't see that churn of short-lived certificates. Spire handles that.
Yeah, and you're getting into opening a whole different can of worms there. Also similar to what EdgeX is doing. It's not unique to Spire. It is simply around adding an expiration to your tokens. So certificates, X509 certs have a valid to, as well as JWTs have an expiration on them. You can choose to roll them out. So like, for example, when I start up my EdgeX environment, the tokens are valid for 1 hour. And if I turn my stuff off and turn it all back on again, I'm great up until an hour. An hour later, I've got to go and reissue all of my JWT tokens, because those are my secrets that are being used to authenticate to OpenZiti. Once I've authenticated to OpenZiti, as long as I'm using that session, OpenZiti is fine. It maintains your session. You don't need to re-authenticate. You don't need to do any rolling type of, you already have a persistent connection. If you were to reconnect, then you would need a new certificate or a new JWT that was valid for whatever time period you're in currently. But yeah, that's all stuff that you can do without even enrolling, right? Because those are enrollment less, if you will, types of or pre-enrolled. I don't know, like, you're enrolling it ahead of time. I don't even know what to call it. I'm gonna have to think about that. Anyway, I think that was a cool Ziti TV, Ken. I've had fun. It's right on noon, right on the money. So I guess we'll call it a day. If anybody has more questions, drop them in the comments. If you haven't given the project a star, we need that GitHub star. That's what we're here for. give it a thumbs up, share the video, tell your friends. I don't know what else to say, Ken. What do you
Call it a day.